Over at Muddy Waters, you launched a new strategy. You call it the New World Order Fund. And it is a long-only strategy, actually. You're not going short here, but it is in Vietnam. I think that the rationale to this is pretty interesting. This idea here that it has to do with the flows away from China. How do you feel about opportunities abroad right now, particularly China and the Chinese economy, given that your new strategy is kind of directly focused here on the troubles you're seeing there?
So I've been very public for well over a decade. I mean, really since 2010, 2011, that I think China is in general uninvestable. And the reason that I felt it was uninvestable back then had to do with the prevalence of fraud and the fact that, at least as far as US listed China-based companies go, there's no way to hold people accountable. So that old saying, you show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcomes. On top of that now, we can layer a very hostile to business and to Western governments and to America government in the form of Xi Jinping. And it's also, I mean, this is the type of situation where we could literally wake up one day and see that China is preparing to invade Taiwan, and that could very well put the US and China on a course toward a kinetic war with each other. So that's another reason why China is uninvestable. But to go back to the way we see the world, in 2020, April of 2020, as COVID's shut most of the US down and shut a lot of the world down, it dawned on us that coming out of COVID, it was going to be the biggest geopolitical realignment since World War II, and that it would all be about the world's relationships with China. And so the question was, what's the trade? And what we settled on was that the country that is going to be the most profoundly benefited by this realignment, at least relative to the size of its markets and its economy, should be Vietnam. I think Vietnam will be ground zero for money for foreign direct investment that would have gone into China that's now looking for other homes because of the need to diversify supply chains, because of the political risks associated with China. And the reality is, I think in this new geopolitical framework, the countries that are best positioned are in general the ones that are the least aligned. So the ones that balance effectively the US and China. So that would include Vietnam, that's India, that's also Indonesia. So that to us is really the sweet spot and why we're excited about Vietnam, at least for the foreseeable future.